I'm probably the only person on the planet who doesn't like to sleep. I have to sit on the edge of the bed, and adjust my body and wait till everything comes into focus. It's like if you took a magic 8-ball and went.
The most notable difference was with her personality. She had temper issues, and she would become aggravated and get into screaming matches.
We were crazy, crazy close. We would watch The Office together every night. When he was having kind of a breakdown or he was freaking out, I was the only one that would calm him down, and we would make office jokes while he was like twitching and freaking out.
I do think about the way that could be chipping away at the person who's already there. And I think that that's where the fear comes from. It's not as much that it could happen to other people, it's just that I could be altered and I'd have no control over it.
Sometimes you think you're invulnerable, invisible, invincible. You think, oh, this will never happen to me. Well, I was wrong. Being a taxi driver, you get to see all aspects of life, of people. The woman sat up front, the guy sat in the back. He whipped out a crowbar, knocked me out with the very first blow. And then the three of them dragged my body behind the taxi cab and started beating me to death. I like to call it, they invented a new game called Paul Pinata. They did 17 fractures in the skull. They broke my nose, 5 of my ribs, my arms. They were laughing very hard when they were doing this. And it woke the guy who saved my life, Jim, I call him, about 1 in the morning, was woken up by this ruckus. And the heavy laughter, and each of them would take a turn and just pound me and then destroy my taxi cab, and all for $42 in ones in my pocket. So that's how I got here.
Brain Care is a facility to help individuals after they have had a significant brain injury, and to help them to rehabilitate and to get back to as much of a normal life as they possibly can. The really difficult thing about brain injury is a lot of individuals with brain injuries do not look different. They do not necessarily act differently. So a lot of individuals may not even realize that the person has a brain injury. The difficulty comes within the side effects of a lot of different brain injuries, and for each individual, their side effects are going to be different. But some of the common themes and concerns for individuals with brain injury has to do with memory.
I had to relearn just about everything, who I was, and I became a different person from that day forth. I kind of visualize it as like a CIA file where some of it came back. And a lot of it didn't come back. It was blacked out permanently.
Even though I didn't know my aunt, it's always been present. She was never mentioned in family stories without her accident being mentioned and without the brain damage being mentioned. Petite drove off of Turkey Creek Canyon, which is in Colorado, when she was 17. And she had tremendous physical and cerebral damage. So she broke nearly every bone in her body and made a pretty miraculous recovery, actually. She was able to function normally in most respects. In family story, she was never really the same person before and after. There were always two different people. There's Petite before the accident and Petite after the accident.
My brother had many accidents, and he still does. Basically what happened to him happened from a lot of concussions. Because he got Tourette's, after what happened, he would have a pretty extreme tic, and then he would repeat words, he would curse a lot, It's one of the things that happened. And then, he couldn't write and couldn't remember things. He ended up getting kicked out of his school because of his angry outbursts and because he couldn't control himself. He kind of rebuilt his personality based on an example he had around when we were older. And so it's strange because he's really like a carbon copy of another person. I feel like my brother, the person who I was with when he was sicker and struggling through stuff, kind of died. And there's a stranger in there. I know that sounds weird.
Probably one of the biggest struggles that we hear from a lot of families is, I don't know how to get the person back to the way they were before. They struggle with a lot of things that maybe they didn't struggle with before. And the family has never had to deal with that. And now it's a huge part of who they are. Not only does the person with a brain injury really need support and rehabilitation, but the family needs support as well.
They treat you as an afterthought, an echo, a shadow of a person that once was, somebody to be taken care of and manipulated and controlled. You find dramatically who becomes your friends, who's your true friends, who really loves you, who really wants you, who really needs you. I think the wife fell into the lifestyle and fell into material things, the money. And I guess that's one of the reasons why she left. Refinding love has been the most challenging to me and still is at the moment. That's been very, very difficult because when you say TBI to somebody, they go running for the hills. They don't think of you as a person anymore.
Many individuals that are with us that since they have had their brain injuries have been very frustrated with the dating scene.
I've gotten onto these dating sites and tried to get back into the swing, and people just keep telling me, stick with your own kind, date somebody who's also brain injured, they would be more understanding. And
I think of it as being sort of like this irrevocable alteration. Like a black box, you go in one person and you emerge as someone else, and there are parts of your personality that aren't recoverable, and there are parts that are emergent that weren't there before. And it's very mysterious. I guess, we know how bones mend and how muscles mend, but how brains heal is something else entirely. And yeah, it scares me.
You have to reinvent yourself. It's a must. They gave me a whole new purpose, a whole new destination of life. I find that I've become more loving, more caring, more understanding. I feel I've become more thoughtful, more in the now, in the present, in the moment.
Just to, have a smile in my day, I will come up from whatever I'm doing and just spend time talking with people that have brain injuries. They're just amazing, persevering, positive individuals that have taught me so much about patience and just understanding and just not, looking at a person for who they are, but digging much deeper.
My perception of love has changed dramatically. It's changed dramatically. I find it's more focused, more determined. You focus in on what's being said, and you try to give as much as yourself to that other person as possible, whether it's a friend or a loved one or your dog. It doesn't matter. You become laser focused. I try to help others that have given up hope, especially the new people just coming into the system, I try to guide them and be a guiding force in their life, to be a path, to find a direction.
Right now, he's a sophomore at UC Berkeley studying engineering. He's fine. He, every single day, has to live a little bit differently than everyone else, but he's fought for it. Even though I don't know the brother that I have now, I love him so much because I know everything he's been through and fought for. And no matter what happens, no matter who he is, no matter, the way he speaks or what goes on, I love him. And also, if I ski, I definitely am wearing a freaking helmet.
She lived a very, very successful life after the injury. She went on to be a business owner, and she had a lot of really cool creative enterprises. It's hard to disentangle it, because even though there was a Petit before the accident became a part of Petit. What happened to her brain became a part of who she was later in life.
You might have to adjust certain things, but you don't need to treat them any differently at all. They have, at the end of the day, their needs are the same as yours and mine. They want to be accepted, they want to be appreciated, and they want to be loved.
Don't overlook us. Don't dismiss us. We have a lot to give. And just like climbing a mountain, you take one step at a time. And you focus in on that one step at a time and nothing else until you get to the top.